Morning everybody, welcome back to the channel, and as you could have seen from the title and thumbnail and from the background behind me, welcome to Ecuador. We got here yesterday afternoon and we were hanging out on our porch pretty much for 2 hours because once we got up here, this is our room right back here. Once we got up here, there was just bird after bird, new species, and it was just incredible. It was probably hands down the best birding experience of my life. So I'm excited to expand on that, explore some of the new habitats around, and hopefully get some more birds, because if the rest of the trip is anything like it was yesterday, we're in for a real treat. Today's video, I don't want to do any tests or tutorials. I just want to go out and try to see as many species and show you guys as many species as possible. So after the hike, I'm going to take you guys over to the hummingbird feeders. I'll show you guys those. They're incredible. It's ridiculous how many hummingbird species there are and how many individuals there are that show up to those hummingbird feeders. So I'm pretty sure I'm guaranteed to get some nice shots out of that. If I don't get any good shots out of that, something is horribly wrong with me. But I'll show you guys those, and then I'll show you the fruit feeders. And there's also a nice little, not really a river, but it's kind of just like a small water fountain that I saw a few tanagers landing at. So I'm going to scope that out, hopefully get some photos there. But I'll just show you a bit of the property, show you around, and hopefully get some great photos. So stay tuned. For today, I'll be using the Sony 200-600 with the Sony a7R IV, and Emily over there is using the a7RIV with the 100-400. I don't think we're going to swap lenses too much today. Today is just more to get a lay of the land, and once we get a better understanding of where everything is, probably in the next upcoming days, we'll keep swapping lenses just so I can test the 100-400 with the a7R IV. So I'm incredibly excited. So far, it's been amazing here. We already walked in about 500 meters, and we keep stopping every few feet because there's another bird that pops up. So far, it's looking great. If the rest of the trail is like this, it should be a pretty awesome day. So stay tuned for some forest birds, and I'll see you guys soon. So far the jungle has defeated us, and that's one of the reasons why I love photographing in the jungle. Nothing is easy, nothing is given to you. You really have to work for every single photo you take. So far nothing too great, but we did just hike up to this scenic view of Mindo right up here behind me. We're gonna slowly start heading back now, make our way down the trail, and hopefully get back to the cabins and start photographing some birds around the cabin area. That seemed to be where there was the most birds. Even when we first got up the trail, like I talked about in one of my previous videos, the ecotones, right before we got into the jungle habitat, that's where there was the most birds. So we're gonna hang around that area, see what we can get. We just got back from the hike, and I changed my shirt because it was all wet from the hike, and I look outside and now it's starting to rain. So, as expected in the rainforest, you're expecting to get wet, not really a big deal. And hummingbirds in the rain are probably my favorites. So I'm gonna run over right now, show you guys the hummingbird setup, and start taking some photos. See you soon. So here are the hummingbird feeders, and what's great is right behind it, all these trees. The hummingbirds are going to come to the feeder, they're going to feed, and then they'll land in these trees. So you can get some really nice headshots of the hummingbirds when they're at the feeders. Then you can get some when they're perched, and sometimes in some scenarios when there's enough light, you can get some in flight while they're flying to the feeders. So you can really get all three types of shots that you could want for hummingbirds. The reason I'm sitting on the ground is I want it to get nice and low. I'm using these beams here as a bit of a blind and shooting through the posts right here, and this is where mostly a lot of the birds are perching right now, and I'm able to get a little bit lower down to their eye level instead of shooting from up high and shooting downwards, which there is still a few nice photos that I made from that height, but I'm realizing that the photos from down here are a little bit better. There's one reason why I love photographing hummingbirds in the rain, and I'll show you why. So these are the fruit feeders that they have out back. They have a couple over here, and one more off to the left over here. My mind is actually blown. Just look at how crazy these species are. Like, isn't that the most gorgeous thing you've ever seen? That's a golden tanager. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous that these are feeder birds here. You know, back home you have juncos and chickadees and cardinals, which are beautiful in their own way, but man, this many colorful birds in one place is mind-blowing. It's ridiculous. I'm over the moon right now. As I just finished saying how crazy the colors are on some of these birds, the blue-necked tanager shows up, and look at this one. I mean, if you showed me these birds a few years ago, I'd be like, ah, yeah, those are fake. These aren't real birds. Are you kidding me? The colors on that are ridiculous. When I first got into bird photography, I think the types of shots I was after was a bird on a clean branch with a clean background, and that's the types of shot that I'm trying to avoid on this trip. It is a little bit more difficult now because I just got here and all these species are new, so I'm really trigger happy and I'm just photographing as much as I can, but I'm not thinking as much about composition as I should. But I think in a few days that's going to wear off and I'm going to start thinking about composition a lot more. And what's the point of coming to this beautiful country with all these beautiful plants, trees and vines if you don't show them in your photos and you don't get those in the photos? Because if you just have a photo of a bird on a bare branch, you could have taken that anywhere. There's not really any indication of where you were in the world. So I'm trying my best to try to incorporate some of the foliage and vines and everything into the photos, and I think I'm going to do a better job of that in the upcoming days. But for now, I'm a little bit trigger happy, as I said. I just quickly scrolled through some of my photos. I have a rule here, no chimping in the field. I don't want to waste time because there's usually a lot of birds around, so chimping wastes a bit of time, takes your eye away from what's happening in front of you. So I didn't want to chimp in the field, but now that I'm back, I looked over my photos really quickly, and man, what a day. It's crazy how many species there actually are. I'm sure most of what I saw was common, but I'm just so thankful that I was able to experience this. And it's only day one, so I'm hoping I'm going to have 17 other days like this for the rest of the trip. It's so hard to film videos here because as I'm filming this, in my peripherals I see all these birds flying around and I want to look because it's like, oh, what if it's a new species, and I need to... And anyways, it's really hard for me to focus. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. A day of birding in Ecuador. I didn't think it could be this awesome, but it's everything that everybody told me it was and more. So I'm over the moon and I'm looking forward to the content that I'm going to create here. So for the rest of the day, I'm probably just going to ID some birds that I took photos of that I'm not too sure of. Probably edit some photos, look at the footage, and definitely go into town and get some South American food because it is so good. From the jungles of Ecuador, I'll see you guys in the next video. Happy birding.